Hello. Welcome to the In Love with Business podcast. This miniseries is titled Chief Sustainability Heroes and is hosted by Professor Paolo Tatiki and Melina Shore from University College London, School of Management. Throughout this series, we will talk to sustainability leaders from different organizations and sectors to learn about their sustainability journeys. We will ask them about their career paths, the challenges they encountered in implementing complex strategies of sustainable transformation, and what inspired them along the way. We will also ask what advice they would offer to aspiring chief sustainability officers. Enjoy the episode.
In today's episode, we welcome Peter Bragg, an experienced sustainability and environmental leader, developing strategies, driving change, and delivering successful business outcomes in sustainability and CSR programs across a range of sectors in the UK, Europe, and Australia. In 2021, Peter joined Canon Europe as the company's EMEA Sustainability and Government Affairs Director. Founded in 1937, Canon is a well-known multinational imaging company with operations in roughly 120 countries, and they have more than 13,000 employees worldwide. Peter, is really a pleasure to have you in our show.
Thank you. Great to be here, Paolo.
And Peter, can we ask you to tell us a little bit about your background and your path, how you became a chief sustainability officer?
Great. Yeah, of course. Well, without giving away my age, I was probably a slightly early adopter, I think, maybe in sustainability. I actually studied an environmental science degree, I think probably one of the earlier degrees. Graduated in 1997. But that was before sustainability. Well, we had sustainable development as a term, but sustainability wasn't really a corporate term. Mm-hmm. But throughout that course, the bit that really interested me was around environmental management and business. So, that was really where I wanted to focus my career. And I managed to get myself into a small consultancy, and for the early part of my career was doing kind of ISO 14001, environmental management system work, auditing, which was a great introduction actually to the kind of procedures and structure and systems and processes around environments, and also a good way to kind of learn, kind of build my knowledge in the area. So after a few years in consultancy, I was lucky enough to be put on a placement actually in one of my roles, working for the business that was National Grid here in the UK, kind of filling a I think it was someone's maternity leave in their corporate team, and was there about 6 months and really enjoyed that, and really enjoyed actually being corporate side rather than kind of consultancy side. And decided that was really the area I wanted to, again, move my career into. So following that, I then found an opportunity to join Network Rail, which is the UK's rail infrastructure operator. Spent nearly 9 years with them in a variety of roles, again, corporate team, working on some big projects. And then I joined Eurostar, which, although trains was probably a bit more like acted a bit more like an airline, because that was their main competitors. And it was the first place I'd worked really where sustainability was a much bigger part of the brand. And actually they had a real customer focus in terms of promoting sustainability, encouraging, rail as a sustainable form of travel. So I spent a great 3 years with Eurostar, looking after their environment and sustainability team. Had a bit of an opportunity to go and work abroad, which again was fantastic. Yeah. Spent 3 years in Australia, again working in trains. So working for Sydney Trains over there, looking after their environmental team and looking at sustainability across everything from compliance and reporting through to kind of internal engagement and awareness. And then on coming back from Australia, a few more years just back in consultancy, but then, as you say, had the opportunity in 2021 to join Canon as their Director of Sustainability and Government Affairs for the whole of Canon's EMEA region. So, quite delighted to have the opportunity to change sector. As I'm sure you understand, Paolo, sometimes even within sustainability, we can get pigeonholed in kind of sector specific areas, which I personally remember feeling quite frustrated, because many of the skills, I think, of being a senior sustainability leader, it doesn't really matter which sector you're in. That sector knowledge you can grow quite quickly and in time. So yeah, really pleased to have the opportunity to join Canon, and yeah, thoroughly enjoying my role here, said leading the sustainability team across the region.
And we have interviewed quite a few people at this point in the podcast, and they kind of know from all sort of backgrounds. But it's probably quite uncommon to have someone who has spent so many years actually focusing on sustainability. We had, other CSOs who were, only recently moved into this type of job, into this type of position. So I guess what keeps inspiring you, and where the passion comes from for remaining in a sustainability role?
Yeah, it's a great question, Matt. I think I've always been kind of personally, interested in kind of nature and the environment. I mean, I'm not an evangelist, or I always like to think myself as being quite practical and a pragmatist, and I think that's one of the important skills actually for being a CSO. But it's always to me been about understanding really, I suppose, the planet's finite resources, and that business has to change. But I think what inspires me as well, I'm a strong believer that actually it's businesses and corporates that can really drive change. Fine, we respond to governments and regulation, but there aren't many governments out there, I'll say being politically dangerous, but there aren't many governments that are really actually leading on sustainability and pushing the agenda. And it's amazing. Corporates get a bad name, but actually it's often corporates that we've seen over the past decade or so that are really pushing the agenda. And you look to the examples like Unilever, for instance, that have really pushed forward on corporate sustainability. So that inspires me as well, and I just think it's a real opportunity to to kind of make change. It's why I love what I love about Canon. It's got a strong brand, and a strong it's kind of brand value and reputation, but actually it's about the products and services that we make and we operate and that we sell, and it's how those kind of contribute to society, but also how they can be sustainable products in their own right. And it's again, I really inspired. It's that intersection between a sustainable product doesn't have to compromise. It can be a great product. It can have great design. It can be actually something that is more valuable for customers as well.
And we were looking at the website of Canon, preparing for this podcast, and we basically found a very, I guess, interesting and explicit corporate philosophy: living and working together for the common good. So it seems that sustainability is really in the DNA of the corporate.
It is, yeah, and that our KSA philosophy. I think it was developed in about sometime in the 1980s. I should know the exact date, but it's actually a very convenient kind of umbrella for us to hang sustainability off. To me, it perfectly kind of articulates really what sustainability should be about, and it's really actually something as a business in the past year or so that we've really started to articulate internally about our purpose as a business, and that we're not just here obviously to make money. Revenue and profit is important for us to to continue as a business and be a sustainable business, but also and our CEO and president is very clear on this, that strong revenue and profit gives us the ability to invest in important areas of the business like sustainability, but linking it to that the products that we create. And we're known for cameras and printers, probably best known, and even within those it's the full range of printers, from the printer you might have at home all the way through to full kind of production printing, industrial printers, label printing, but actually medical products as well. We make MRI scanners and ultrasound scanners, CT scanners. We make semiconductor lithography machines, which are basically used for chip manufacturing. So all sorts of areas we touch on people's lives and can have a positive benefit as well. And I think that's a really important message to help convey what sustainability is about internally and externally as well.
Great. Yeah, I think that Kiyosei philosophy, it's beautifully describes it, and it could also be possibly added to your title, Chief Kiyosei Officer.
Well,
So
that's a good
speaking of,
idea, actually, Melina. Yeah, I'll take that one back.
yeah, so you're obviously an early adopter, having worked in this field for a long time. So how would you define the role of Chief Sustainability Officer today?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think this is probably the number one question on, everyone who works in the business. When I think back a few years, and I perhaps looked after a smaller sustainability function, but, we looked after, responsibility for perhaps compliance and regulation, a bit of reporting. The shift now to being a chief sustainability officer or equivalent role, perhaps my personal opinion, I think it's probably one of the broadest roles in the company in terms of number of different areas of the business that you intersect with, that you have to influence and work with. So, whether that's working with finance, whether it's working with HR, whether it's working, with our, in Canon, we call them our business units, who are, the kind of own the product, whether it's working with sales, with service, literally it's every single part of the business. So defining the role is actually quite hard. I guess it probably partly depends on your type of business, but really it's, I don't know, you could call it chief change maker, chief influencer, also chief kind of knowledge demystifier as well. Sustainability is always the phrase that most people understand a bit of, but it's become so broad now that you're there to try and translate all of those different aspects, bring them kind of through a funnel, I guess, and into something that is actually meaningful for the business and for those other key influencers and decision makers within the business.
Right. Okay. And in your view, so you have an interesting background, having worked in various sectors, in the railway sector, and then here now with Canon. What are the most significant challenges, in your view, facing companies today, and how do you address them in your role as CSO?
I think one of the key, probably the biggest challenge I'm facing at the moment is how big sustainability has got, actually. And I feel very fortunate that we've got to this point. And again, as someone that's been involved in sustainability for a number of years, it wasn't always like this, and that's probably the message I'd say to someone coming in now. There have been times in my career where it's felt like quite an uphill journey. I wouldn't quite say pushing water uphill kind of thing, but it was always, I often describe it as a kind of push-pull dynamic. And it was, for so many years, it felt pushing on sustainability, kind of please, go and do it. Now, actually, it's become much more of a pull, which is amazing. So, everyone suddenly is putting sustainability in their kind of business plans and their targets, but then they're saying, okay, I'm doing sustainability. I know I've got to do it, but what does that actually mean? How do I turn that into a meaningful business plan or targets or something? And then you've got to kind of coordinate that all under, a corporate vision, a corporate strategy. We've all got net zero targets or perhaps circular economy targets. So, as the chief sustainability officer, you need everything to align, to ladder up to your overall strategy. But you also don't want to dampen the enthusiasm of people. So yeah, probably resources and demand. And we've been reflecting that within Canon. I've got very good support from my boss, and said from the CEO and president as well. And we've been fortunate to be able to increase the resources in sustainability. But it's also, as we said, as you're intersecting across all these different departments, it's building the capacity and the capability in those parts of the business as well for people that may not have sustainability as part of their job description, or not directly, but when you're talking about net zero, for instance, and you're saying, well, I can't do this without my procurement team on board or my logistics team on board. How do you upskill them with the knowledge that they need? So that kind of skills gap and how you deal with that, I think is one of the biggest areas. I guess the final point, well, there's probably many more, but I think just data and reporting demands. We're seeing this kind of new era of kind of reporting and transparency. Again, I think that years I worked on, the first sustainability reports I was working on, or environmental reports, were back in, kind of early 2000s. But that's been bumping along, but suddenly with regulation like CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which affects us here at Canon, seeing a huge step change in the amount of data we're going to have to harvest from around the business, how we're going to be able to analyze that, report it, but also then use the kind of feedback loops to start use that to inform our strategy as well. So yeah, the challenge is big at the moment, but it's really about the breadth of sustainability. The demands for us as a customer-facing business as well. Our customers are shouting loud now. We're a supplier to them. So whether it's in the bid and tender phase, or whether it's for existing customers saying, we want you, Canon, to help us. We've got net zero targets. How are you going to support us to meet our net zero targets? How it's not just at a product level, it's through everything that we do and how we can, upskill them as well. So you've got that, and then going upstream as well. So yeah, lots of challenges at the moment, and around it's as much meeting those demands.
Great.
Thank you, Peter. And in your opinion, what are the critical skills for a chief sustainability officer to be able to drive, positive change in modern organizations today?
I think you have to be, again, if having worked in this area for a while, and it's gone from perhaps you'd be recruited based on your, purely your technical expertise or knowledge of regulation. I think the role of a CSO requires, on one hand, much more kind of business acumen, and kind of understanding of how businesses work. But it's also about how to articulate and present a vision for sustainability, but do that through in my head, through a kind of proper business lens as well. It was interesting seeing, I think in the news a few weeks ago, I think it was Unilever's chief executive saying, we need to make sure that sustainability is very, much more business focused and linked to actual targets and objectives. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but for us in Canon, that's important. We have a very quite a formal business planning process. We call them our midterm plans. They're 3-year rolling plans, and they are taken very seriously in the business as a way we do our business planning. So sustainability has to link into those, and if I can't get sustainability into those plans, I won't be able to deliver against my objectives and the business objectives. So having that business knowledge, but it's the softer skills as well. More than ever, it's about influencing. It's about getting people on board, bring them along with your vision and strategy, and be able to kind of use those advocates in the business to support you. You can't do this alone. Again, time back to that, sustainability's got so big. You have to have other voices who can support you. So I think it's those. You have to be good at communicating. You have to be good at being able to kind of analyze stuff, but also, you're still the technical expert in the room. And as you say, no matter how broad sustainability gets, one minute I could be talking about net zero and trying to explain scope 1, 2, and 3 targets. Next minute, we're talking about human rights in the supply chain. And what do human rights mean for us? The next minute you're talking about circular economy and resource efficiency. So you've got to kind of balance between all those different things. So yeah, it really is a kind of multi-skilled.
And can you be an expert of everything, Peter? Or
no, definitely not. I'm jack of all trades, master of none. But I've always strongly believed that it's not only getting the advocates around you in terms of colleagues or people more senior in the business, but I'm very fortunate. I've got a really strong team around me as well. So again, it's as sustainability is growing, I've got real sympathy actually for, we work for a large organization. I have a very well-resourced team. If I worked in a much smaller business, you still got to have all of those skills and do all those things, and you might be just 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to be able to have a kind of regulatory expert and have someone to help me manage all of those compliance issues that we have. So yeah, but I think it's you can't be a master of everything. But actually, for sustainability people, I can't think of many other functions in a business where you're required to work across so many different other
Yeah.
areas of the business outside of your immediate function.
And how do you stay up to date with the latest sustainability trends and emerging best practices? Because this is a space that keeps changing and moving. So I guess there are some challenges associated to making sure that you follow these trends.
Yeah, I think it's a big challenge, and it's inevitable. I think the more when you get into more senior level roles, it's the time factor to do that. And as you say, the agenda moves so fast in sustainability; those bandwagons keep on kind of driving through, and so keeping up to date is hard. I have all the normal kind of email subscriptions. I belong to a professional membership body, IEMA, the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment here in the UK. They're very good at pushing knowledge down. They have the networking events, but actually, and an interesting space that I've seen develop, I think, in the last couple of years or so, is more kind of forums for chief sustainability officers and equivalent levels, where you can get together in a whether it's over a dinner or just over drinks or something, and have perhaps a slightly more informal sharing of
experiences,
knowledge and experience and best practice. The chance, kind of proverbial cry on the shoulder type thing, where you can talk about some of the challenges that you might have and how other organisations have been doing it. So yeah, I think it's one of the big challenges, and again, it's trying to work out when is something that you really need to latch onto and drive into your business, or when is something a bit of a passing fad that is just something that you just need to keep an eye on and perhaps can park for the moment, because company strategy, you can't update your strategy every month. You need to make sure you've got flexibility within that to kind of adjust and adapt to that changing agenda.
Great. And Peter, we saw you spoke recently at Sustainability Live here in London, where you shared some insights, and you took us behind the lens, if you will, at Canon, and shared with us a little bit about your circular approach. So can you share with us maybe one or two initiatives that you're particularly proud of, sustainability-focused initiatives that you helped spearhead at Canon, or even prior to that, perhaps throughout your career?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll talk about that one first, Melina. I've got a couple of nice examples. I think so on the circular side.
Yeah.
One of the areas, and I'm not going to take credit that it's all my initiative, but circular economy is one of the key areas that for us as Canon, we feel it's an area where we have an impact, and we need to reduce that impact through we're putting products out there in the marketplace. Some of that is a lot of that is e-waste, and we recognise that that's an area that it's a big area of concern. So the way we can address that is through refurbishment and remanufacturing activities. So we've got a really cool facility based in Germany that's dedicated to remanufacturing, refurbishment and repair. So actually on our B2B side, we've got a great product that is a fully remanufactured office device, a multifunction device. And we're seeing really strong demand for that now out in the marketplace. And that's taking one of our used devices and putting it through a full remanufacturing process. Having seen it looks effectively brand new. So and that really, especially in some of our Southern European operations, there's a very strong demand for that, or for those types of devices, because they're really supporting their own circular economy ambitions, but we're also looking to increase the range of products that we've got. And in fact, we've recently, I think, started here in the UK some refurbished lenses as well, that are now being sold through our own e-com store. So again, it's taking those products and giving them a second life. So that's fantastic, and it's a real it's still only a relatively small proportion compared to all new products, but it's growing. And we see it being very important, and it's changing the thinking around product design, how you use products and extending the lifetime of products as well, which is obviously what sustainability is all about. I think the other area which, again, I'm extremely proud of here at Canon and it's more on the social side actually, and it's our young people program. So that sits within my team. We've been operating it for a few years, but in recent years, seen a huge amount of growth actually. And I think this year we will have run our young people program activity in around 28 countries. So this is, in a nutshell, where we're working through partners. We go out and identify groups of kind of underrepresented, underprivileged young people. And we hold workshops usually with a Canon ambassador, which is a Canon kind of sponsored professional. We talked about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, about sustainability, but we also talk to them about the power of storytelling and how imaging can support storytelling. We show them how to use one of our cameras, and then we set them free and let them go off and take pictures of things that they recognise as being important to them. So we've had everything from things around safe, female safety, through to conservation related activities as well. So, and we've run that everywhere from, Sellafield in the UK to Goma in the DRC. So that's really fantastic. And what is really important about Young People Programme is, as a social activity, it's something that's using our products and services in a way that we feel kind of benefits society as well. So, it's always quite easy to get the checkbook out and, just fund an activity somewhere. I'm not saying that's not beneficial, but for us, getting both the credibility, it's getting the enthusiasm within the business as well. So more and more now our kind of local managing directors of our kind of national and regional sales organisations, they're realising how beneficial Young People Programme is, and they're looking to push it as well. So we've put, I think we're around 8,000 young people now through the Young People Programme over the last few years, and I said it continues to grow, and that's fantastic because it feels that we're able to leave a little bit of a legacy there in terms of people understanding, again, I said, about sustainability, the UN SDGs, but hopefully also developing a kind of knowledge of what Canon represents as well.
It's fantastic. It sounds both educational and empowering for the next generation. And you touched on, driving that enthusiasm internally as well. So how do you go about engaging employees across the organization, especially one as large as your company? How do you engage people who might not have sustainability within their function, their roles, their titles? So what's your approach and thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's it. It's a challenge, and as sustainability's grown, it's how you do that. I think I'll probably break it down into different layers. So, as I said, you've got to be able to deliver against all these key issues. Whether it's net zero or circular, and it's about engaging the business in those areas. You've got to have the right level of decision making and influences within those key business units and functions as well. So. There's multiple ways of doing it. I'm sure within Canon, what we have, again, I think common to other businesses, we call it our Sustainability Steering Committee. So we set that up about 18 months ago. But what we made sure was that the representatives from the different functions and business units were those people that had a key kind of influencing role within their own business, their organisation. We didn't want someone too junior who might be really enthusiastic, but not be able to kind of be a bit of a decision maker and actually be able to take stuff back into their part of the organisation. So, typically it's kind of director-ish or senior manager and above, the representatives. And we use that as a forum to not only drive progress, so we have kind of status reports and dashboards that we're now producing so that we can monitor all of the different activity. Again, not unique to Canon. We have, a lot of our functions operate quite differently, and actually the way our business units are split between consumer and business, means that we have very different activities depending where you are in the business. So yeah, it's trying to monitor progress across all those different areas, but we also use it as a chance to give them, updates, information, cascade that information, whether that's coming down from our kind of parent organization in Japan, or that I want to share with them about new policy and strategy as well. So that works very well in terms of dealing with that more senior level. But then you've got the rest of the employee population as well. And we know we do an annual engagement survey.
Okay.
Again, in common, I'm sure, with many organizations. In fact, I just saw the results this morning, which I'm very pleased by. But we measure how sustainability is understood in our business, but also one of the questions we ask, which I think is a really important question, is people saying or reflecting on their ability to support Canon on its journey to sustainability, and their reflection on that. And so we've been doing, some of that's about awareness, but also it's about how people understanding that nearly every role, no matter how small it is, that they play a part in supporting what we do on sustainability. You mentioned, Melina, about Kiyosei, and this is about everyone pulling together on sustainability. So, but what we did actually in this last few months, I sit as part of a function that also includes corporate communications and marketing, and we recognise that not only that having the high level knowledge of sustainability, but if you're a communications or marketing professional, I'm now asking you to communicate about what we're doing on net zero targets, but then I'm also saying to you, watch out for greenwashing and green claims. So we actually put our entire function through some more specific interactive training as well, so that they really understood how their role contributes to sustainability, how it impacts sustainability, and how they can make a positive changes as well. And that actually, we had some really good feedback on that. People found it really useful in building their understanding. And I think that's one of the key ways is people, most people do stuff at home, a bit of recycling, or they might drive an electric car now. But there's often a disconnect between home and work, and they come to work and they think, well, what can I actually do? So just building that. And I said to people, you might be uploading web pages about sustainability. We've got our whole web team set in our part of the business. Or even if it's a smaller thing as just putting the right thing in the right bin. It sounds very boring, but that's important because it helps it helps the figures we report, as well as obviously doing the right thing by the planet as well.
And through your experience, you attend a lot of events, industry events, you meet lots of different CEOs and leaders. So based on your conversations and just your own experience, how are you feeling? Do you feel optimistic about the role that business can play to help address these challenges?
I think, like a lot of people in the industry, you kind of swing a little bit between optimism and pessimism, occasional bouts of pessimism. Yeah. I do feel optimistic about the role business can play. As I hinted earlier, I think it's actually governments is perhaps where the slightly bigger concern is, and we're perhaps seeing a slight shift, aren't we, at the moment on that side. But despite that, I'm not seeing any slowdown really in both internally within Canon or from many of our big customers. Any slowdown in the kind of recognition of the urgency around sustainability and the need to take action. So I'm optimistic. Probably for sad reasons, because I think we can all see the impact of climate change happening out there, and it's not going away. And if you're part of the 99% and you recognise the science, you realise that there are these issues, whether it's extreme weather or biodiversity loss, whatever it is, that all these areas are just going to, those issues are still getting worse, and that provides a kind of imperative to take action. So while sometimes pessimistic about the rate of change, I do feel optimistic. I think that the role that business can play, and I think the successes that we've seen already. So generally positive, I think, Melina.
That's great.
And Peter, to go to an end, what advice would you give to someone aspiring to become a chief sustainability officer?
Well, it's a great role to have. I think it's the first advice, and it's definitely something worth doing. There aren't many roles, I think, as I said before, where you can have such influence in an organization and have such positive change as well. And the comfort that you're doing it for a very valid reason, I think, a very important reason as well that underlies everything. So, but if you want to kind of get up to that level, I think there's probably some hard skills, but the soft skills around building your influencing skills, building your communication skills, but building your network as well. And if you're within an organization, recognizing who in the business has that kind of influence, has the power, as it were, and make sure you kind of make friends with them. Make sure you're aligned with them, because you need those people to be your advocates. But it's also having the confidence to articulate the business, I said, through a business lens, really, why sustainability is important. You have to recognize that sustainability, it's entirely my job, 100% of my job. I have to be passionate, positive, and do it all of the time. But it's actually unrealistic to expect that of everyone else in the organization.
Yeah.
It can't be everyone. People might still be personally passionate, but they have a job, they have their own jobs to do, and you have to acknowledge that. So, it's being patient, it's being pragmatic, it's getting the wins when you get them, but also, building that capacity for change, because when that change does happen, sometimes it can be really fundamental and substantial, and it's those examples that keep you going. So yeah, I think it's really about building those networks is probably the number one thing I'd advise.
Fantastic, Peter. It was a truly pleasure to have you in our show. Congratulations for your work at Canon, and thank you for being with us.
Great. Thank you, Paolo. Thank you, Melina. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this discussion, we invite you to like and share this episode on your social media. Enjoy the rest of your day.